My writing partner, Luke Barber, lives in Dallas, Texas, and I live in Northern California. So we do most of our collaboration over the internet. But one time at least during every book we write together, we get together in person to do some editing, to do some brainstorming together. And I want to tell you a story about the time we got together to finish up our book called Work Like Your Dog. Let me actually give you the 2-minute download of what this book is about. You know, how many times have you heard somebody say, "Oh man, I've been working like a dog and my boss is working me like a dog"? But the question is, you ever take a moment to notice how your dog does spend his day? I mean, where do we get that expression from? Huh? It'd be your lucky day if you could be working like your dog. Huh? And especially thinking about this whole thing about work and play and fun, dogs don't seem to know the difference between work and play, right? Because everything is fun for them, everything is fresh, and it's like they're seeing it for the first time. I mean, you come home from a hard day at work, as soon as you open the front door, your dog is there in a flash. Eyes bright, tail wagging, every fiber of his being is going like, "You came home! I can't believe you actually came home! This is the most fantastic thing that ever happened to me!" Every day you come home from work, your dog is really excited to see you. But the best thing is, 15 minutes later, you go out to take out the garbage, you come back in the front door, your dog is still really excited to see you. Wouldn't it be great if the people you work with every day would be that excited to see you? Well, that can actually happen once you learn the secrets of how to work
like your dog.
Like your dog, exactly. Now, pretty much everything I know about this subject, I learned from my own standard poodle, Celeste. And you know how sometimes they say that people kind of grow to look like their dogs? Where would anybody ever get an insane idea like that from? I just don't understand it. Now, see, if you were working like your dog, for one thing, you wouldn't be worried about who was on your team. Did you hire the right people? Are you working with the right people? Because dogs love the one they're with. Right? You'd never ever be bored at any classes or staff meetings or client meetings because dogs are easily entertained. Right? Now, imagine that your membership site is fully up and running and you're having a conversation with your most important customer, your most important member. If you could pay attention to that person the way your dog pays attention to you, that person would leave a conversation with you feeling like a complete genius. Because dogs listen deeply, even when they don't understand. Yeah. Now, of course, when I say you should work like your dog, I am speaking metaphorically, of course. I'm not saying that anything a dog does is okay for you to do at work. For example, if you were to come into work one day and give the typical canine greeting to one of your coworkers, well, you would be up on charges of sexual harassment almost immediately. Right? But another way to look at this whole thing is to say that dogs go with the flow. Right? Yeah, they take it easy. They don't get upset by all kinds of things happening. So one of the principles of Work Like Your Dog is that you need to take a break. You need to take a break every once in a while during work to re-energize yourself and get your... I'm so tired. I'm so glad you're paying attention here. So every so often when we were working together, Luke and I would take a break. And one day we took a break to go out and work in my garden. And we were walking back from working in the garden when I could hear the phone ringing in the house. And I was expecting a call from my wife. And I said to Luke, look, Luke, go grab the phone and tell Janine I'll be right in. I got to put away the rest of the tools. So Luke goes into the house, and like about 15, 20 seconds, he's at the back door. And he's saying to me, pick up the other phone. Pick up the other phone. So I go in and I pick up the other phone, and Luke is saying, okay, my partner is here now. Would you ask him the question that you just asked me? And a woman on the other end of the phone asks this question, and immediately I know it's a wrong number. She says, yes. She said, I asked you, is this the man who does yards? Well, we had just been out working in my yard. Right? And one of the principles of this book was take every opportunity to have some fun. Plus, Luke is going like this. So I say, well, yeah, this is the man who does yards. She says, oh, I'm so glad to have found you. She says, I lost touch with my yard man from last year. And my neighbor told me that you did a fantastic job on her yard. And what I want to know is, could you possibly tell me, what would you charge me to do my yard? So there's kind of a complete silence on our end of the phone. And then Luke has an inspiration. He says, remind me, he says, how much did we charge your neighbor? And she says, well, you charged her $35 and my yard's about the same size. Luke says, $35? Yeah, that sounds about right. And she says, well, that would be fantastic. She says, but tell me, could you fit me into your busy schedule? So I say, okay, this depends on one thing and one thing alone. Where exactly do you live? Turns out she lives like 4 blocks from my house. So I say, yeah, I think we could fit you into our busy schedule. She says, really, when could you come over? I say, when can we come over? We'll be there in 15 minutes. Right? She says, talk about customer service. Right? That's just incredible. So we don't know what we're doing. We pop open the trunk of my car. We put the lawnmower in there. We put a couple of rakes, a couple of these clippy things. You know, I'm driving really carefully so nothing falls out. Right? Turns out this is a really nice woman. She works for American Airlines. She shows us around. It's a piece of cake. We mow it up. We rake it up. We clip the hedges. She gives me $35. We're all feeling pretty good. Next morning, the phone rings. It's her again. She tells me we did such a good job. She wants to know, can we take her on as a regular customer for the rest of the summer? Well, it takes Luke about 2 seconds before he says, absolutely, we will take you on as a regular customer. Of course, he's flying home the next day. No skin off of his nose. Right? But I figure, all right, we went this far with the thing, we might as well take it the rest of the way. And really, it is no big deal. Whenever I'm going to mow my own lawn, I schedule her in the same day. So towards the end of the summer, my next-door neighbor, Bob, who's the president of the local bank, is having a fundraising affair for one of the guys at the bank who's running for city council. So I get a little dressed up. I put on a sport jacket and going over there, having a couple of drinks. A lot of my friends are there. I'm having a really good time. Who should I spot? Across the living room, but my one and only customer. Right? So very casually, I make my way over to her. We have a very nice conversation, actually, although not once do we mention anything about her yard. We talk about the weather. We talk about the party. Okay. Next morning, I'm getting ready to go for a run. I'm stretching against a tree in my front yard. Bob comes running out of the house. I say, Bob, thank you so much for inviting me to that party. I had such a good time. He says to me, never mind that. He says, I had a very strange conversation about you with one of my guests. I say, what? He says, well, this woman in the neighborhood comes over to me and she says, Bob, can you tell me what he's doing here? And she points in your direction. I say, why? What's wrong? Why shouldn't he be here? She says, why shouldn't he be here? She says, that man is my yard man. Right? Bob says, I said to her, you have to be mistaken here. I know that man very well. She says, I'm telling you, that man is my yard man. Right? Bob says, look, there's got to be some mistake here. I know that man very well. That man is my next door neighbor. She says, that man owns the house next door? I can't believe a yard man could afford a house like that. Right? Bob says, look, I don't know what's going on here, but I do know one thing for certain. That man is not your yard man. 2 weeks later, it's time for my regular appointment. I haven't even gotten out of the car when she is all over me. She says, excuse me, she says, Bob tells me you're a management consultant. And I say, well, yes, that's true. She says, he tells me you're a very successful management consultant. I say, oh, that is so sweet of him to say things like that about me. She says, well, I don't understand. Why should a successful management consultant have to have a second job as a yard man? So I pointed out to her when she first called me up, she did not ask me if I was a yard man. She asked me, was I the man who does yards? Which I definitely was. First, it was just mine. But now, there was both mine and hers. Yeah. She took like a little step back, like she couldn't believe what she was hearing, and then she totally lost it. She was laughing so hard, she was crying, she was bent over double. I was laughing along with her, and then I mowed her lawn. She gave me $35, and I went home. So the point is, you don't have to look for fun. It is always looking for you. Right? All you have to do is say yes to the things that are there.